I just roll the dice, pack up in the Audi, back and go, little Joe. I just hit my 40, gripping on some grain, swinging like I stole it. Shorty got big thighs, juicy how she poking. I just roll the dice.
All right, wait for this all to boot up. All right. Hey y'all, it's Trent Knox here with a Trent Knox Show in a different format, in a live video that I haven't done in probably a year or longer, maybe during the pandemic, 2020 time frame, when I did a live interview with a guest. And we've got Elliot Rivera with us, who I've interviewed before, but had some technical difficulties and faced some problems. But yeah, we got some feedback going on again. If not sure what might be happening, but it's going directly into the microphone.
Trent, I can hear you fine. I'm not sure. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, but I'm hearing myself back.
Oh, okay. Got you.
Man, this might break. We might have some more technical difficulties this go around. Essentially, what I wanted to have you on for was to not necessarily talk about the esports component, because esports is one of your verticals, but talk about the multiple different entrepreneurial ventures that you have, in the sense of in many different ways. So we had scheduled this podcast to actually be on the Metaverse podcast, which is the Metapreneurship Podcast, with my co-host Allan. Multiple different things going on. Everybody has their own life and whatnot, so that had to be put on the back burner. But for this is more of like an open format conversation where we talk about you and we talk about skills and tactics you took in entrepreneurship, which is now metapreneurship with the digital components, and talk about, I'll have questions about particularly my journey and get some advice and some whatnot on how maybe I should approach the businesses that I'm doing. But before we get started here, I just wanted to kind of get that out of the way. Can you tell the audience a little bit about who you are?
Just give me 1 second, Trent. I'm sorry, Trent. Just give me 1 second, brother. I'm sorry. Sorry about that, brother. Every time we get in our conversation, something goes on. It's kind of crazy, actually. It's kind of crazy.
Hey, that's kind of good. I mean, it's good. It means we're working.
We're working. Absolutely, we're working. So, last time we spoke a lot about esports. And what's happened since then is incredible, actually, to me, because we're in this world now. And that was just a couple of months ago, where the world's been flipped on its head in terms of Web3 specifically. And I guess, we could talk about the whole rise of like kind of what's going on from people trying to get into crypto, trying to understand that, trying to understand blockchain technology, trying to understand why these NFTs came to market, and now like a JPEG basically is worth 1.7, Bored Ape Yacht, CryptoPunk, and the access that gives everybody to. I'm sorry. Hold on 1 second. Look.
Just trying to a little bit reflect on these things. And all right, here we go.
Back once more. But that trajectory of what we just been trying to talk about, we're all trying to figure it out. So anyone you come across that goes, hey, I'm an expert in NFTs, I'm an expert in blockchain, I'm an expert in Web3, and where this is all going, I walk away because we're all trying to figure it out. Even the best, Naval in the business, Chris Dixon in the business. Last night, I'm not sure if you were on Twitter, but they lit up Twitter. Chris Dixon, Jack Dorsey replied to one of his tweets about Web3. Elon threw his hat in the ring, of course, tweeting about it. I mean, they lit it up. And what we're getting now is there's a war going on between like Web 2 ideology and Web 3 ideology. And that to me is that battle is what's so important, that we understand that battle's happening. And we try to figure out, like you and I try to figure out the best practical approaches to transitioning to this Web3. And, we started our own podcast, our own business approach, our own DAO, if you want to call it a DAO now, which is Decentralized Autonomous Organization. And it's called Web3 Everything. And you could find it on Instagram. You can find that on Twitter. That's going to be the name of the podcast as well. We're going to go live soon. And we're also trying to figure it out, but we're trying to figure it out for the layperson. That makes sense. I think that this Web3 development is going to reach out into every industry. It starts with like an NFT, but the technology itself, it's like a digital receipt when you think about it. And so if you gave people currency in this podcast right now and you tokenized it and you started going, well, instead of like YouTube, I'm going to tokenize it and kind of see if my community wants to be a part of this and have ownership in it. That extends far out because it becomes like a Patreon effect in a way. It becomes a digital receipt where someone could say, well, I was part of that podcast, that movement. They can then in turn sell that receipt later on. You could have giveaways and special red carpet events to whoever's holding that receipt, that NFT. So I think, we're starting off looking at pictures and thinking like it's, like a crypto punk, but it extends way further than that. And the market, I think, will play out that way.
The implementation of Web3 is it already has revolutionized the internet. When it comes to the metaverse, the large majority of the people that you are helping don't have access to connection to the metaverse. Even I, as someone who is deep into this in a philosophical and theoretical and logical sense, that I don't have 100% access to the metaverse through augmented reality, VR, mixed reality. That being said, I'm still participating in this two-dimensional version of what the future of the metaverse is, through these JPEGs, which most people demonize who aren't participating and saying the right-click save method. And yet that application, that aspect can be applied in a non-validated sense, in a non-verified sense, on a different service, and what's interesting about this conversation is that's what esports is. Esports is stolen data used for commercial success.
Yeah, let's think about this now, right? We're thinking about Web3, but I think Web 2 and Web 3, there's a hybrid right there, right? We're on this conference, you and I right now, Restream. Well, technically, if we just put some Oculus on, we'd be in Web 3, right? And we'd be in the virtual world. Yeah. But we're here already. We've used Zoom. That means we've been in the metaverse. Let's think about crypto. Crypto feels like it's new, but we've all been using digital credit cards and digital accounts for a while now. So those numbers that are in our account, Chase and Citibank, those numbers have been digital. You know, if we dig deeper, that money really actually, that fiat really kind of hasn't existed in a long time, but that's a deeper dig into it. But I would submit Fortnite, Call of Duty, we've all been there, and we've all purchased upgraded guns, upgraded swords. And so we've already laid out the foundation. I think what's happening right now is that we're on a bridge, everybody, and there's people far ahead on the bridge hitting Web3, and there's people way behind on the bridge, Web2. But I think we're all on the bridge. We just haven't really internalized it the way I think it has to be with humans. Humans are like, where am I right now? I need a point. Where am I? Where's my coordinate? But I think we are all, you know, we've been in it already.
Yeah, and as you were talking there, what's interesting is we're doing this live. We have some viewers in the chat on Twitch that are agreeing with what you're saying in that sense. And when I was talking about the way that the layman is looking at it versus the person who understands the technology, and I was trying to relate that to how Defense of the Ancients and League of Legends are both copies of a game that existed as a mod within the Warcraft 3 world. And that ecosystem within gaming, which is where most people who understand crypto come from, is that ecosystem is scam to win or pay to win, whereas crypto is earn to win and play to earn components. And when you mention something you mentioned, which was really interesting, is that digitization of fiat currencies, or in other terms for some of my sponsors, centralized currencies, they are negatively impacting the world. You mentioned Elon earlier. In a environmental sense, I would say 100-fold compared to crypto. And go ahead. No, go ahead. I'd love to hear your feedback.
Well, I think you hit it on the head right now. And so what do we have here when we unravel stuff? We have a centralized system versus a decentralized system. And then people say, well, what does that mean, right? Centralized is everything in Web 2, whether it's, you know, just think about it, right? There was a generation who said to themselves, you know, what do we own, really? What do we own? And when they looked at them and internalized it, they said, well, we don't own our words. Every time we type, Twitter owns that and earns on that. We don't even own pictures. You know, Instagram owns that. We don't own a post or a picture and a post. Facebook owns that. We don't own cars, right? Because what do we have? We have, you know, right. Lyft coming in, and then they were told, don't even own a home. Airbnb, VRBO. So a whole generation was scammed.
Wait, can you say that again? What is VRB? What is that?
VRBO, which would be you know, VRBO is like the villain to Airbnb. They're their number one competitor.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Right, and so if you think about that, you have a whole generation who got scammed out of ownership, and that's the bigger story here, where they're saying that whole centralized way of one person owns, and you know, I don't want to shit on Silicon Valley, but they, you know, most of that wealth got transferred to that area of the country. And I think what we have now is a group of individuals who said, we're going to take back what we can, and we're going to create another world to take it all back in code. Now, mainstream is just seeing Ethereum and, you know, Algorand and, you know, Cardano. But I think the deeper dig is like a whole world's popping up. Have you ever read the book Snow Crash?
No, I haven't, but I've been meaning to.
Dude, You got to read that book. You got to read that book because it was written in, I think, 1993. I read it in about 98.
And that's the origin of Metaverse.
Dude, it's a documentary.
Right.
And so the other movie people could look at is like Ready Player One, and that's like a good mainstream approach to what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But like I think you hit it on the head. The war is centralized versus decentralized, and the first battles are like an NFT, Bitcoin and Ethereum. I think those are like the first battles. The secondary battles are what you really have to sort of have your eyes on, because that's when the actual technology that these things are riding on permeate through every industry, which I believe it will, because it has to. Just think of a college, right? Think of a college. What have colleges done all this time? They've said, hey, come to school 4 years, right? I'm going to give you a piece of paper, and then you're going to owe $120,000. We're not going to promise you any job or anything else, and here's your piece of paper. The school literally owns all your data, and they give you a piece of paper for that. Now, in this new world, if there's blockchain implemented in a college, let's say, well, the student owns all the data, the credit, the scores, every accolade. Now, the student, in turn, can use that biometric data and say, you know, job A, job B, job C. This is my data, and this is what I've earned, not the college. And then you have a different approach to, you know, an employee saying, well, I know exactly what they studied, all their grades, what their accolades are. And that's very different going further. And that's basically what a blockchain would do for the college. And this goes on in every industry.
In our chat, people are curious about if you have a Discord server where they can talk to you in further depth.
And so we're working on that right now. I wanted to do it right? And so Discord, it's getting commercialized right now, because everybody knows, like, you can just grab that community, and let's come up with an NFT, not have any real team behind it, and then bump it off. And so I understand what's going on in Discord as well. So we want to do it the right way. And Web3, everything is trying to make sure that we do it the right way. We want to get privileges to the right people. We want to make sure it's not like a hacked account where we could just say, you know, we're selling stuff. We don't want to sell stuff. We want people to have information and then proceed on that information. So the Discord is going to be Web3 everything. It should be up soon. I'm just slowing down the process because I want to make sure I do it right as opposed to doing it quick.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to kind of talk about the conversation about higher education as it pertains to this Web3 development. You know, I think that definition of what how people perceive or their perception around education can get convoluted. And so when you talk about that, what things do you think Web3 is going to revolutionize in higher education?
Well, I think the whole premise of a college education is going to go by the wayside very soon. I think the whole industry is going to be shocked when the actual blockchain technology overrides what they're doing. Let's just say, for example, you wanted to have, I mean, what I do all day is jump online and hear lectures from MIT, from Harvard. I hear lectures from the great Peter Thiel if I want an investor. And that is free to me. And so how can a college compete with that free level of high-end information, especially when they don't provide the goal state? What's the goal state? The goal state is like, we're going to provide you with a job that can pay off the 120 in loans. They don't do that. And so you have a freemium model with the ability to learn at your leisure exactly what you want and speed up the rate of information that you learn. Or you have the old style Web 2 way of doing things, which is like the industry owns it. We're going to tell you it's a 4-year thing. We're going to make sure you overpay for these credits and leave you holding the bag literally with a piece of paper. So, you know, I think it's more not revolutionize. I think it's going to destroy that industry, actually.
Well, it's really complicated because I think there are a few outliers that exist within the system, like Harvard and MIT and
Yes.
And then your art schools like NYU that do have the capacity to withstand if they make the
Proper pivot, if they do.
which we know that with the alumni organizations that they're contextually going to be limited in that way. So have you heard of the University of Austin?
I have. Yep.
So what do you think about derivatives of the system, the established system? Do you
Well,
believe that they're able to prosper?
I think Lex Friedman's on that board. I might be incorrect
Yeah,
about that. You might have
you're
to
right.
research. I'm not sure, but I think Lex is on that board. And
Yeah.
that, to me, I think they're restructuring what a college is, and I don't think that when we look back, I don't think it's a new college. I think it's a new industry that they're creating that looks like academia. But I think it's more like, we're going to see these cities pop up, right? And these cities are going to pop up based off of people's blockchain biometrics. And so you're going to be able in the future, I think, you're going to be able to pick a state, and based off your blockchain biometrics, what you're into, who you like associating with, those cities are going to just spring up and pop up. They're not going to look like the cities of today where you have to go to New York to get a job and you have to go to LA to be an actor. That's all gone. And I think colleges are going to pop up like they're going to be pop-up academia, if that makes sense. Locations where people with the same things that influence them, the same ideas, the same ideologies are just going to string together and share their knowledge of what they like to share. Like a video game. Think of a video game. You don't play Call of Duty and then look for a 2K guy in there. You're just looking for guys that are playing Call of Duty who know the map,
Agreed. I completely understand what you're saying. I'm a bit perplexed by the concept of the fact that we've seen this in the world of like the physical reality in a web 1.0, web 2.0 with Detroit and these boom towns and whatnot of the early manufacturing and technology space and whatnot. Do you see the same ailments occurring within the crypto ecosystem where we have El Salvador now as one of those places?
That's a hell of an analogy, Trent, and that again, you hit it on the head, because I think with like the rate of Moore's law, you're going to see that permeate through industries as well. And like Detroit's perfect, but Detroit was a time span, right? Like a generational time span. These are going to pop up like Twitter trends. They're going to be that fast. A city's going to pop up in the desert, Nevada. It's going to pop up in Wisconsin. It's going to pop up in all these small spaces that have, the land's going to be cheap, obviously, and people, are going to just pile in, create these small cities. Well, look at Dubai. Dubai, even though it took time to create, it's in the middle of a desert. So if you think about that on an engineering perspective, you would say that doesn't make sense. That's impossible. But look at the clientele that's heading over there. The best people in engineering, computer science, the crypto crowd, those people who are futuristic thinkers are in Dubai right now.
I hear what you're saying. There's a I think there's different levels to the social component of how crypto Web3 projects become successful. You had mentioned you hit on a nail there with pop-up cities, and I think the one you were specifically thinking of was Burning Man, and the fact that I've been following. I'm not sure if you're following Justin Kahn's new platform, Fractal .is,
Yes.
and the large majority of that platform is being built on the Discord. But I think I agree with what you're saying about the mindset and ideology and drive component, that it can create a pop-up city, but what's the foundation in which that city's built on? I happen to believe that in order for sustainability, we have to, unfortunately, I'm going to say this, gentrify the existing structures in order to maintain. because, and this goes back onto a criticism maybe of Elon, is Elon overpromises and underdelivers on aspects like not SpaceX, but parts of SpaceX, and shooting up the satellites for the infrastructure that we need for this digital nomadacy.
Yeah, that's Starlink. Yeah. I think if we just take an analogy and we look at like geopolitics, right? What's happened in the United States over the last 2 years is sort of a good microcosm and a good example of how things can move very fast, right? Let's look at the exodus out of California and New York. Just due to, politics, and we'll just cover it, we'll just umbrella it and say politics. Record numbers. New Yorkers moving to places like Texas, Puerto Rico, again, a crypto haven, and Florida. In the masses, you have members of Wall Street going down to Tampa Bay and recreating Wall Street down there right now. The same thing in California. And if you follow Joe Rogan, and, you'll get he gives a lot of data clues, right? It doesn't matter how you feel about his podcast. You like it, don't like it. He gives a lot of data clues of where markets are going. And one of the data clues he gave was the exodus from California to places like Austin and other places in Texas. And that happened pretty much overnight. And so I'm thinking, like we talked about Moore's Law, these rates exponentially move faster and faster. And I assume with the rate of technology and everyone, here's another thing, geopolitically speaking, right? And economically speaking, they're saying the great resignation, right? People are just leaving their job. Well, where are they going and what are they going to do? Those are good questions. And whoever could fill that vacuum of where are they going and what are they going to do, that's where you invest, right? And so I think that's the way I see it. Things are going to play out, I think, very fast in terms of these pop-up cities and pop-up industries. And I think Web3 is going to push that in that direction. It's going to push it monumentally fast, exponentially fast.
So the Twitch audience has a lot of questions for you. So I just want to briefly take a minute and say, like, how is the best way for them to get in contact with you directly? So maybe ask you some questions.
Yeah, so right now on Twitter, Twitter banned me. I was Elliot the Trainer on Twitter. I had 30,000 followers, and they banned me for using music in my videos. So that's great. Again, Web 2, right? And you can ban somebody in Web 2. Web 3 is going to be a little more difficult to ban code. But they could find me right now on Twitter at Elliot Rivera, just Elliot Rivera on Twitter. On Instagram, I'm Elliot the Trainer still. So people who know me from 25 years ago know I've been in the fitness industry for 25 plus years. And so they can find me there. Instagram, Elliot the Trainer, and Twitter, Elliot Rivera. But from this point forward, we are moving very aggressively with Web3 everything. And that's on Twitter. That's Instagram. That's going to be the podcast. That's the .co. That's going to be the .eth. That's where we're moving with everything. So
I'm not sure where to take it from here. We kind of hit on so many different pieces that I kind of, where I'm at as far as my participation in Web3 right now is heavy into DeFi. Do you think that people should be holding their money in centralized banking, or do you think that they should be looking into these alternative ways to hold their I guess their not only their savings but their earnings? Because at this point it seems that the bank is just taking the money, and with inflation, your dollar becomes less and less valuable, even though you might be seeing your DeFi money in association to your dollar going down, but every day it seems like commodities are going up by 10 cents.
So Trent, I'm going to preface this to help us both legally. We are not investors and we're not giving out investment information. So I'm helping us both out with that.
And this is not financial advice.
This is not financial advice.
Financial theory.
Correct. Okay, so that being said, um, I I think right now, well, not that I think, right? There's 7% and rising in inflation numbers. Those are probably not true numbers. It's probably way higher. So that's one thing you have to contend with. Stock market. If you're looking at the stock market, CEOs took out a record number, $69 billion stock selling in the last couple of months. And we still got 2 more weeks, so or whatever, week and a half left. That's a record number. So you always follow the smartest guys in the room and what they're doing, right? And then another point is that as fiat gets printed, and this is just any economist knows this, more and more, it just lowers the value. That's just economics 101. So all those 3 points being said, if you look at the returns on crypto, Ethereum has killed over the last 18 months or so. Bitcoin is Bitcoin, say no more. But then you have smaller coins, Cardano, Allan, who have very good teams behind them. You also have Sandbox, right? And you have Decentraland coins, where if you believe those platforms, those metaverse platforms, and again, if you look at those plots being sold, they're being sold for mills. And if you believe the coins intrinsically will go up as the amount of land decreases that's available, you might want to investigate those as well. I see cryptocurrency as the evolution of monetary practices. I don't think fiat goes away, because fiat didn't go away with credit cards, but it did evolve with the credit card. And I think this evolution will supersede everything going forward.
I'm going to reiterate this question in a different way, but what do you think about relationships in the digital web metaverse component? Do you think that, because what is it that there's like a number that came out that said that the decrease in birth rate is happening both in China and the US. Do you think people will become more segregated from each other, or is there going to be a escape through the metaverse in order to assemble with other people?
I think humans have generally, physiologically and mentally changed over the last 2 years. And what I mean by that is that we're now in the mode where we believe humans are infectious, whether we like it or not. That's our belief system, right?
Yeah.
And as stuff like COVID and Delta and Omicron continue, I think the trajectory is humans are more and more infectious. And because of that, you got to say, well, if I'm looking to go into a place where human contact is lessened, that would be the metaverse. Right. And so just based off what's happening socially and societal, I think all angles lead to a metaverse, a place where AI systems take over, a place where there's more robotics because they would be deemed safer. And if we go back to the Great Resignation, well, if there's a Great Resignation happening, those jobs are being filled by what? AI systems, robotics.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the future is pointing towards that. Like the winds are going that way, and we're not going to be able to stop that.
Oh Lord. This goes back, I guess.
Yeah, that's my opinion. I could be wrong, but
No, you're right. It's definitely happening. I guess it's at the it's guys like Elon and Bezos and Zuckerberg that are able to navigate the ship with solar winds at that height. But then it's issues with how that data gets in the hands of people that maybe it shouldn't be in the hands of. And I don't think I necessarily agree with Western government as to who shouldn't have ownership over that data. But, you know, I think that the trouble is, let me ask you this. How do digital citizens get good information?
That's a tough one, right? Because if you and I want to search for an answer, we search Google. But Google is a Web2 platform. So every time you search, they're able to monetize everything you searched, right? Mm-hmm. And so good information, I think in the future, is going to come from peer-to-peer information. The same way you and I are doing this right now. The same way Joe Rogan has, you know, really been at the forefront of what a 3-hour conversation can do, where you can expand on ideas and share much more layered information. And I think that's the future. Things like this, what we're doing, is the future of information, as opposed to Wikipedia and Google and, you know, just these platforms like Twitter telling you what a trend is, even though it's not really trending. That's the fight. Centralized, the biometric data is in the hands of a few, and then decentralized, where we're sharing our biometric data, you and I, and we're sharing information, you and I, and hopefully, you know, everyone on the Twitch stream, the YouTube stream, they're all sharing information just like that. I think that's where next level information is going to come from.
I totally agree. The trouble with some of this is that it's information that can limit our ability to I guess the credibility can sense in the sense of social proofing nature of creating limitations on who and when people would do business with you. Obviously, you know, time passes and certain alignments and ideologies become mainstream, and then it's like people can't stop and people can't avoid, you know, doing business with I guess bad actors, right? They can't avoid doing it because the system is reliant on you know, I mean, I'll just put it out there, like the politics of the US government are not in the best interest of the citizens. It's in the best interest of shareholders, more or less the shareholders of the US government, which we see is how politicians have become it's a legacy. It's inherited. You inherit your position in government. So in crypto, we've yet to find our founding fathers. I mean, we talk about it a little bit. You know, we have the Vitalik Buterins, the Satoshi Nakamoto's, right? Which is an ambivalent character we can't put a description on. Some people like to say that there's a Tampa man, a Florida man who created it. Yeah. But yet that's yet to be defined based on a lot of different reasons. But how can the people that the Web3 everything is going to serve start to build a receptor in order to receive the information that you have to offer them?
I think what we're doing right now is the first antenna put up.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think Web 1 was like, it's the Wild West. Like, wow, we can share everything. And you have, you know, technologies evolve from that web, and we're sharing data files, and we're sharing video games and all this crazy stuff. And then Web 2, you had certain conglomerates, certain industries just take it over and funnel that biometric data so they can monetize it. And I think at the end of that funnel right now, if you flip that funnel, I think That's what's happening right now. They lost control of it, and it's again the Wild West, and that's Web3. And so, just like a wave pattern, this is the, this is it's it's a point now where all the, let's say, the fluid is unleashed, and it has to be reorganized again. And I think that's where we're at. And so again, your audience is going to say that guy's full of shit or he's not full of shit. And so that's a vetting system that they now have access to, which they didn't have before in like Web 2. Web 2 was just like, again, Twitter. Twitter has a Twitter trend and story. This is the story of the day, and I don't care what you feel about it. And if you feel a certain way about it, we'll just delete you. Facebook will just, take you off. YouTube will demonetize you. And I think that gives a community like yours a chance to vet a person like myself and your future guest, which they should be doing.
It's incredible because this on Web 1, I just wasn't, I'm 28. I didn't really experience it. So I don't know what level of censorship existed in Web 1. In Web 2.0, with 2008 and everything, with the crash of the web, .com market and everything like that, I didn't really feel it. Obviously, I was in school. I was just a baby kid. Now with this past situation, which necessarily wasn't related to any market other than like what we were talking about earlier, is like the market was reflective of humanity, not necessarily of the housing, our essential needs or our essential desires. It was based on the fact that we had let activity become the better of us, and not being cognizant of our how we affect one another and how we affect the environment that we are all sharing. And so with that being said, the Web 2.0 component, I think the reason, or there is a sense of doxing that is existent in Web 3. Do you think that KYCing yourself is a positive in next iteration of the metaverse / industry, or not? Because I can tell you most of our conversation, our chat right now is not KYC'd. It's coming from people that I don't know if they do or do not have our best interests at heart.
Yeah. So, pros and cons with everything. And here's the other thing I want to mention, that there's always a hack. Okay. There's always a hack. I am going to be 47 years old. What I've seen is that there's always a hack, whether it's finances, whether it's the housing market, whether it's credit scores, whether it's video games. And again, we discussed this before. I've been playing video games since I was 8 years old. ColecoVision, Atari, Nintendo, Sega Genesis. I played them all. There was always a hack in every game. Up, down, left, right. There's always a hack. And so even though we're talking about crypto and we're talking about, DAOs, and we're talking about the next layering of blockchain and decentralized, there's hackers out there. And for all we know, there's big VCs, and I'm sure of this, behind a lot of the NFT guys that are prevalent right now, because it's really hard for me to wrap my brain around how the Bored Apes get into like someone like Steph Curry's hand by accident, and then a wide range of highly influential people by accident. I saw that happen on social media. Twitter started up, and all of a sudden, Kim Kardashian's on, all these high-level people are on. And I know from a marketing perspective how that works, So it's always weary of everything, all right? And you should always investigate as much as you can. That being said, I think the technology itself is a game changer. The technology, the layering of the technology behind all this is game changing. And again, your Discord, your Twitch stream, if this is on YouTube, your community has the right to say this is garbage, right? Both are garbage. They have the right to say, well, let me investigate these guys further, or I agree with him totally, and I'm gonna look into one or two things he said. They have the right to do that. That's what, I've been doing all my life, and they should be doing that. I think the problem is when you're just given one perspective and told, if you don't agree with this perspective, you're going to get banned or deleted. And that's where Web 2, I think, overplayed their hand. And once they overplay a hand, like a card game, you become dead fish. People see it, and you've overplayed your hand. And that's when the losses happen for the person that overplayed their hand, just like poker.
Oh, wow. Yeah, this is definitely something that I've mentioned. I just had this conversation with another friend of the show conversation, in the sense that his perspective has come to that, and it's only my interpretation, and I can't always big up and put a lot of positivity behind some concepts, and what's right for one person may not be right for the other, so his perspective is that the stakes need to be lowered, that ambition is ambition is something that can kill the cat just as curiosity can, and in the sense that overworking yourself can lead to physical deterioration as well as mental instability, and in his case, that's from what he said and what he's come out publicly about, that's true to what I know. Now, I have to ask you, as we're wrapping up, kind of do rapid fire here.
Sure.
On a couple different topics. Gary V being one of them. Top 10 NFT V friends.
Yep.
The way he markets things I've seen too many entrepreneur burnout based off of hustle porn. How do you find a balance within working hard and working smart?
So I have what I've deemed the 4 F's, right? And this is what I use. It's like the playbook for myself. It's family, it's fitness, it's finances, and it's fun. Those 4 F's I always go back to. Again, I'll say it. Family, and that could be one person, that could be a group of 5, but really people you trust and you love being around, and you don't have to have the phone in front of your face, and you can have conversations with them, and you genuinely enjoy being around. That's love, and that comes first and foremost. When it comes to fitness, when I go to the gym, all right, and I break a sweat and I'm working out hard, chemically, first of all, you're doing yourself a service. You're increasing endorphins and lowering your cortisol levels, okay? Because that in itself has to be look, your biology is a system, it's a science system, and if you could hack it, you're going to just be productive, right? And that goes hand in hand. Like, the more endorphins you create, well, the less big pharma gets involved in your life. You don't have any anxiety issues. You won't have this depression feel that current society can give you. It's not about the aesthetics for me. It's never been about the aesthetics. It's about the awareness that you have to hack into your body so it works at a premium state. So that's family and fitness. Your finances are super important. And I'm not talking about stacking money, like just I'm gathering money. I'm talking about know your credit score. Make sure you're investigating rates if you're securing a loan and you're making investments. When you're making investments, make sure you make it from a point where you individually have vetted the information. Not he said, she said, they said, I see big money over here, so I'm going to chase it, because you'll always be chasing money. And then the last one is you must have fun. This is a short ride. We all are on this planet that's like a speck of light floating around the infinite universe. Like, don't take it too serious. You can't. That's how I do it.
What about the fact, or what about? So I agree with everything out there, and it actually made me feel good inside. So I, know, I love it. I'm gonna use using that a lot. And with the so VFriends as an established offering coming from Gary, uh, we've seen it say within the top 10 of NFTs for the course of what has been the past year and maybe year and a half. Um, Now, more recently, we've been seeing corporations from legacy companies enter this space, and you mentioned you mentioned traditional athletes earlier with Steph Curry getting aboard Ape. Now we see actual brands like Pepsi specifically getting into the space, which I have to assume that's VaynerMedia that created that offering. Do you think it's a good thing, or is it just a form of way to be like a billboard, you know, like a flag necessarily, and that people are walking over, of course, because it's like, what's the validity to this? You know, what offering does this really bring to the industry?
I see it two ways. I see that corporations will always adapt and pivot because they have the marketing team to do it and they have the funds behind them to do it, right? And so, they have dedicated teams who are looking for the next move. That's has always been and that will always be. That being said, if you go into Decentraland or Sandbox and you see an Adidas or a Nike store, they may be able to, not that they will be able to plant their flag and continue their business digitally. And then you have other Fortune 500 companies that'll plant their flag and get no ROI on it because they don't transition well. They don't know the community well, and they're just like marketing blindly. So that's the difference. But someone like Adidas, if they come out with a sneaker line and there's only 100 and they sell some NFTs with that, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think that's maybe a cool crossover. They've done it in NBA 2K. So, they're just expanding their digital reach. But other companies like Pepsi, I mean, when you saw their Twitter, I mean, everyone saw that. That was like cringy. It was like, wow, they just, it missed the mark. And then what's the actual value of a Pepsi? Yeah,
is the word I'm getting at, because it is a very terrestrial marketing tactic in the sense that nobody likes it when the advertising obstructs the NFL game or Sunday night game or Monday Night Football, and they've like, what is it, 2021, and they finally adopted picture in picture on a few aspects.
Right.
So what was the delivery? What energy were they trying to bring to the space, which we missed?
Trent, even bad marketing is better than no marketing. So remember, everyone was talking about that Pepsi NFT. So it still worked in a weird way to get more eyes on the product. So, marketing cuts a lot of different ways, and you'd be surprised how they have teams that know that they're going to post stuff that's going to be cringy, but still it's going to trend.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I guess, this is where it goes to where we can maybe talk a little bit more about Nike, which is not correlated in any way, I think, to the other marketing strategy, and that they've taken the approach that they're putting their marketing money in emerging technology versus marketing for I guess for me, NFTs are existing technology at this point. Maybe I'm on the 1% of people, and whatnot within that. But I still think that technology exists. Now, for what Nike did with acquiring RTFKT and the augmented reality component and buying future asset brands, I mean, that's not something that I think people largely people don't have the accessibility to use something like that. What do you think about that acquisition?
I thought it was a very shrewd they acquired a shrewd company, right? And it was a shrewd move because going forward, they have a company that's going to really be their right hand in most VR, AR, metaverse platforms. So they didn't get an artist, they got a team. And that team's going to that team has a good community behind them. And I think they're going to be able to do a lot of augmented stuff. You saw that little reel they had out with the sneakers and the, changing. So it was sick, right? It was sick and it was cool. It was actually cool. So again, you have the cool factor, you have the team factor, and you have now a right hand directly in the metaverse. And first to market is very important in the next couple of weeks and months. And they got there. I thought it was shrewd. I thought it was a great move.
So even for you and I, we probably think we've seen technology that supersedes that technology before at conventions and all, even in the ether, as far as like the future of that is the Apple glasses and the actual aspect of what that could be. Is there any project you see that is so innovative, cutting edge that maybe the audience or whatnot have not, even I haven't, I don't see everything. That's the one thing I think goes back to something you said. There are no experts in this space. There are just people pursuing this industry to get educated and more knowledge, and I'm always looking for new projects. Are there any projects that you see out there that are like really interesting?
When it comes to projects that are interesting, I think it's so early that everyone's just getting in, right? And saying like Instagram was like, we're exploring NFTs, okay? Discord, we're exploring Ethereum. We have Tinder, we're exploring NFTs. And so you don't have projects that are solid projects. Like there's a company I know of, I can't mention them right now because I'm working with them right now, but they have holographic technology. This is mind-blowing next level stuff where you have a table and you have holograms that look freaking real. And if it becomes a gaming thing, it's going to be like next level crazy stuff. But I can't mention the name of the company yet, but you'll see it soon probably. That's next level. In terms of next level,
well, let me change the question a little bit because let me change the question. What is the most interesting like sub-genre within metaverse Web3 that you're interested in? DeFi, DAOs, the buzzword component, and like what do you think is innovative about them?
Okay, so I think the DAOs is actually the most critical aspect to understand, right? And this is me speaking based off what I've seen so far, my understanding. I believe every industry is going to have to tokenize their experience. Okay, and what I mean by that is like a decentralized autonomous organization that's able to vote and has actual equity in a company. Who wouldn't want that, right? A voting system where like your community right now has equity in this podcast and they're saying, this is great. And and now there's a Patreon effect and Trent, here's everything in your PayPal, or we're sending you NFTs to your .eth, or however they're going to patronize you, right? Pay you, or whatever word you want to use, send you something that's an asset.
Yeah.
And this is the part where I think people should really start exploring, because I think all these companies would benefit greatly by going away from old standards and trying to tokenize the whole experience. And again, tokenizing means it could be a receipt, it could be NFTs you actually hand out. And, what's most important is that those communities, it could be a tiny community, 5,000 people, but if 5,000 people deem this podcast worthy of $1, you just made $5,000, right? And so that I think has to me, seems like the type of technology that could reinvent how corporations work with no CEO and no person in charge of anything. Think of how Discord works, right? You have a moderator and then you have people who are like, there and can share information. It's like just one organism as opposed to like a period scheme where there's a hierarchy in old Web 2 sort of industries. I would really concentrate on DAOs from here on out. I think that's the one.
I think there's a lot of value in this podcast, and I really appreciate you having come on the show and whatnot. And I hope to see Allan get better. I know he's probably listening to this and wishing he could be here and whatnot. As we're gonna do another one. We're gonna have you back on the Metapreneurship Podcast when we can really get that thing going.
For sure.
And speak to that audience as well. This audience is really appreciative of you coming on and spending your time. Before I let you go, I want to ask. I want to let you know there are a lot of questions for you, and from all different aspects, and they definitely want to know about that project that you're getting involved in with the hologram tables. If you can let everybody know how they can contact you one last time, and what are the best ways to get engaged with you?
Sure. So Twitter again, it's Elliot ELLIOT Rivera RIVERA, just like that on Twitter. And again, I had an old handle. They may give it back to me. I don't really care at this point, but whatever. Instagram is Elliot the Trainer. You could actually find us on Web3 everything, and that's just spelled out the way it sounds, web, and then the number 3, and then everything. That's on Instagram. That's on Twitter. That's going to be the podcast, which I'm going to have Trent on. Yes?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Okay. Perfect, man. I appreciate that. And then, that's where I'm at right now. And I appreciate you taking your time to have me on. These are deep subjects, man. These are not easy subjects to navigate, and the world changes like by the tweet. So this is cool to like flush out ideas. I love this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again, Elliot Rivera, coming on the show. This has been the Trent Knox Show. Y'all have a great day, great evening, wherever you are in the world. But check out some more crypto stuff. I'm sure you'll enjoy it.